Welcome to the neighborhood. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the neighborhood. Ready to learn? Let's go. Welcome to the neighborhood. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the neighborhood. Ready to learn? Let's go.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, read by Mrs. Wilram. Chapter 1. Lucy looks into a wardrobe. Looks into. So a wardrobe is something you can look inside. Once there were 4 children whose names were Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. Peter, Susan, Edmund, Lucy. This story is about something that happened to them when they were sent away from London. They were sent to the house of an old professor who lived in the heart of the country, 10 miles from the nearest railway station and 2 miles from the nearest post office. He had no wife, and he lived in a very large house with a housekeeper called Mrs. Macready and 3 servants. He himself was a very old man with shaggy white hair, which grew over most of his face, as well as on his head, and they liked him almost at once. But on the first evening, when he came out to meet them at the front door, he was so odd-looking that Lucy, who was the youngest, was a little afraid of him. And Edmund, who was the next youngest, wanted to laugh and had to keep on pretending he was blowing his nose to hide it. As soon as they said good night to the professor and had gone upstairs on the first night, the boys came into the girls' room and they all talked about it. "Well, we've fallen on our feet, no mistake," said Peter. "This is going to be perfectly splendid. That old chap will let us do anything we like." "I think he's an old dear," said Lucy. "Oh, forget it," said Edmund, who was tired. "Don't go talking like that." "Like what?" said Susan. "And anyway, it's time you went to bed." "You're trying to talk like Mom," said Edmund. "And who are you to say when I'm to go to bed? Go to bed yourself." "I think we should all go to bed," said Lucy. "There's sure to be an argument if we're heard talking here." "No, there won't," said Peter. "I tell you this, in this sort of house where no one's going to pay us any attention, they won't even hear us. It's 10 minutes walk from here to the dining room." "What's that noise?" said Lucy suddenly. It was a far larger house than she had ever been in, and she thought there were probably long passages and rows of doors leading into empty rooms, which made her feel a little creepy. "It's only a bird, silly," said Edmund. "It's an owl," said Peter. "This is going to be a wonderful place for birds. I will go to bed now. Let's explore tomorrow. You might find anything in a place like this. Did you see the mountains as we came along? And the woods? There might be eagles. There might be stags, and there will be hawks." "Badgers," said Lucy. "Snakes," said Edmund. "Foxes," said Susan. But when the next morning came, there was a rain falling so thick that when you looked out the window, you could not even see the mountains nor the woods. "Of course it would be raining," said Edmund. They had just finished breakfast with the professor, and they were upstairs in the room he had set apart for them. "Oh, don't go complaining, Ed," said Susan. "It'll probably clear up in an hour or so. And in the meantime, there's a lot of things to do here. Lots of books." "Not for me," said Peter. "I'm going to explore in the house." Everyone agreed to doing this, and that's how the adventure begins. It was the sort of house that you never seem to come to the end of, and it was full of unexpected places. The first few doors they tried led only into spare bedrooms, as everyone had expected they would be. But soon they came to a very long room full of pictures. There was even a suit of armor. like what a knight wears. There were 3 steps, 5 steps up, and then a little hallway and a door that led onto a balcony. That's like a patio. And then a whole series of rooms that led into each other and were full of books. Nothing there, said Peter. All of them started leaving again, all except Lucy. She stayed behind because she thought it would be worth trying the door of the wardrobe. Ooh, there's that word again, wardrobe. What did it say about a wardrobe? It would be worth trying the door of the wardrobe. So a wardrobe is something with a door. To her surprise, the door opened easily, and 2 mothballs dropped out. Ooh, mothballs. If we know mothball, we know what moths are, right? So mothballs are like balls of dust. It means it's an old, dusty place. Looking inside the wardrobe, she saw several coats hanging up. Ooh, what does that make you think a wardrobe is? It's something with a door, and there's coats hanging in it. What does that seem like to you? Yeah, maybe like some kind of closet, like a stand-up closet, right? There were mostly long fur coats. There was nothing Lucy liked so much as the smell and feel of fur. She stepped into the wardrobe and walked among the coats, rubbing her face against them. She left the door open, of course, because she knew that it would be very foolish to lock herself into a wardrobe. Soon she went further in and found that there were more coats hanging up behind the first. It was very dark in there, and she kept her arms stretched out in front of her. She took a step further in, then 2 or 3 steps, always expecting to feel the back of the wardrobe with the tips of her fingers. But she could not feel it. This is a simply enormous wardrobe, thought Lucy. Then she noticed there was something crunching under her feet. She stopped and began feeling it with her hands. But instead of feeling the hard, smooth wood of the wardrobe, she felt something soft, powdery, and extremely cold. This is very queer, she said. She went 1 to 2 steps further. Next moment, she found that what was rubbing against her face and hands were no longer fur, but hard, rough, and prickly. This feels like branches of trees. And she saw a light ahead of her. She began walking and walking. Something cold and soft was falling on her. A moment later, she was standing in the middle of the woods at nighttime with snow under her feet and snowflakes falling through the air. Now wait, what just happened? I know. Lucy went into a wardrobe, which we decided is like a closet, and there was lots of fur coats hanging in the wardrobe, and she was walking through this big giant closet, and then she ended up outside. That's interesting. In the snow. But wait a minute. I don't remember the author telling me earlier that it was snowing. In fact, what weather did they say they were having earlier? Oh yeah, it was raining. This is getting very interesting. Lucy felt a little frightened, but she also felt very inquisitive. That means curious and excited. She looked back over her shoulder, and she could still see the doorway of the wardrobe. I can always get back if anything goes wrong, thought Lucy. She began to walk forward, crunch, crunch, over the snow. In about 10 minutes, she reached what she found was a lamp post. As she stood looking at it, wondering why there was a lamp post in the middle of a woods, and wondering what to do next, she heard pitter-patter of feet coming towards her. And soon after that, a very strange person stepped out from amongst the trees into the light of the lamppost. He was only a little taller than Lucy herself, and he carried an umbrella From the waist upwards, he was like a little man, but his legs were shaped like a goat's. He also had a tail, and he had a red muffler rounding on his neck, and his skin was rather reddish too. He had a strange but pleasant little face. One of his hands held the umbrella. In the other hand, he carried several brown paper packages. He was a fawn. A fawn. So a fawn must be someone who looks like a human from the waist, but maybe has legs like a deer or a goat. Interesting. And when he saw Lucy, he was very shocked. He dropped all his packages. "Goodness gracious me!" exclaimed the fawn. Well, the fawn was very surprised to see Lucy, but I think if I was Lucy, I would be very surprised to see a fawn. What would you do if you ever saw a fawn? Pretty crazy, right? Well, I think that it's time for us to end this reading for the day. Our next chapter is called What Lucy Finds There. I think Lucy might have already found a magical place. A place where it's snowing, where there's a fawn, which we know is a half human, half goat. So the 4 children have gone to live with the professor, who they like, right? So they spend time exploring this house. And Lucy finds a secret wardrobe, which is kind of, we said, a closet, and it leads her into like a snowy place where she meets a fawn. Person. I'm curious to see what happens next. We will find out the next time we read together in Miss Wilram's neighborhood. See you guys later. Bye.